Welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. I'm really excited to have a return guest back today. We have Jeff Selver. So we're going to play the intro and get started, and we'll get into it. And buckle up. This is going to be an amazing show, guys. It should be playing the intro. I don't know why it's not doing that.
It is. I saw an intro.
It just went dark.
I saw an intro on my side.
Did it play?
Yeah, it played on my side.
Okay, great. Okay, I think my computer's just slow. So hey guys, welcome back again to another episode of the Typical Skeptic Podcast. As I said, I'm really excited. It just came through on my side. Yeah, I'm really excited to have my guest back today. I have with me Jeff Selver, and I wrote a little blurb about it. I wrote, tonight at 7 p.m. Eastern, the Typical Skeptic Podcast welcomes back Jeff Selver, an experiencer, author, and teacher of mindful leadership. With an MBA and a background in banking, corporate training, and motivational speaking, Jeff's life took a dramatic turn when his memories of alien contact resurfaced. For over 20 years, Jeff studied under a Vedic teacher, immersing himself in philosophy and meditation. But beginning in 1993, he experienced 26 profound contact events with gray aliens, culminating in what he calls the rising, a transformative agreement with grays in 1997 to embark on a soul discovery journey. Jeff's story bridges spirituality, extraterrestrial encounters, and the nature of the soul, revealing insights into life after death, dimensions, psychic powers, and our place in the cosmos. And you can get his book on Amazon. It's called The Rising. And with all that said, I'd like to give him a big warm welcome back to the show. Jeff, thanks so much for coming back on, man. How are you?
I'm great, Rob. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. Yeah, it's great to be back. And hi, everybody. Thanks for having me, Coley. Appreciate it all. Yeah, you got it.
Yeah, I'm so glad she set this up, and it's I'm excited for it. So for the audience that might not have saw like our first show because it got taken down, tell the audience a little bit about yourself and like how this all started and what you can remember.
Yeah. So the story starts. 2019 was when it all unraveled for me. So I had this event happen to me as a 20-year-old. And yeah, I call it the rising. At the time, I didn't have a name for it. And the only label I have for it is a consciousness event. Something bizarre happened to me, and it had a spiritual component to it. And it altered me, and it traumatized me. So it sounds very bizarre, and it compelled me to leave society. So there was a message, kind of a spiritual message combined with it to leave society. And of course, as a normal person, I'd resist that, and I did. And then, but there's a whole process there. I'll lay out in my book, and I eventually decided I needed to do this. So about 2 months later, I did it. I actually abandoned society. I left everything, and it was all in the name of kind of removing everything that I had identified as a 20-year-old. And I was discovering something new that was inside me that was a part of this initiation. And when I started to travel, very relatively quickly, with the first 6 weeks, I started to have close encounters with objects in the sky. And that's the gist of it. And that lasted for about 2.5 years. And I didn't know what was going on. I didn't really know. I was kind of lost. I was a lost 20 and then 21 and 22-year-old while I traveled. And then it would end with meeting my to-be wife, a girlfriend I got, and I followed her back to Toronto, and she had a Vedic guru, and it all worked out. All of a sudden there was these, so the best way to frame it is that there was a bunch of synchronicities that had me leave to go traveling. And then there were a bunch of synchronicities that had me end traveling and go back into society. And it was too weird. It was just a strange set of events that were abnormal, but did seem to guide me. And so as a spiritual person at the time, I listened to that guidance without really having a clear understanding about what was driving the entire thing. And then that was it. I lived a life out in Toronto. That was 2022, the year 2000 actually was the year I met my wife. And that was it. I lived in Toronto, and then we moved around and stuff. But so it'd be like it would be relatively 2019 where I was bugged by what had happened to me. I still hadn't processed it or understood what it was. And I'd forgotten some of the details. And I was kind of thinking back to that period, like, what the hell was that? Like, I didn't understand it. And then, so it actually was Bob Lazar's or Jeremy Corbell's documentary on Bob Lazar that had me take UFOs seriously. I was not into this field. I considered myself not a skeptic. I believed enough, like Whitley Strieber. I had read his book as a young teenager, but that was it. And then I didn't really have an opinion about the rest, and I didn't really know. And then, that was it. Jeremy Corbell's documentary had me taking UFOs a little bit seriously. And I watched a YouTube channel called Finding UFO, which actually only had, at the time, I don't know too much about the channel anymore, but it had UFOs, like anomalous objects people had been filming. So it was just the films. It wasn't someone's opinions on it. I didn't even know the owner of the channel. He wasn't on the channel as a face. So it was just these videos that were loaded up into the YouTube channel, and I got soaked into them. And when I did that, my objects I'd seen traveling came back. So there was a weird kind of like thing that lined up, and it felt lined up in me, like something had like started to open. And that weirded me out the most, was the similarity towards these objects I'd seen traveling now coming back. And the best description here are orbs. And orbs that respond to your thoughts. That's probably the best way to frame that. And that had me really weirded out. Like, what the hell could be that connection? And I was terrified at the answer, actually. And then it's a bit of a process. Everything's laid out in my book with clarity, but just to point, the bottom line is that these things were communicating with me all of a sudden. These orbs and objects in the sky, and it's the one that said, "Look at this." Basically, there's a whole process there, but it kind of said, "Look at this." And there was a memory of a weird event that happened behind my home as a teenager, and turned out to be a screen memory. And when I went to that location, it was the first time ever in my life that I'd felt very clearly something else had happened to me that I didn't know about, while I assumed something else occurred. So it was a kind of a weird disparity in my mind about, two events, basically. So I didn't really know, but now gathering all the memories years later, it was a night that I was pulled out of my house, and I kind of like started to remember it all. And it turned out I was actually compelled by an alien outside my house, and I didn't know that. And I just assumed I, on my own, went out there, and it turned into a full-blown contact event. And it was part of a series of them that were occurring in my life. And that was it. That was the beginning of it. Once I touched what it feels like to be in their presence, pretty slowly over weeks, months, flashbacks kind of breaking out. And it was kind of very like a domino effect, just one after the other, after the other, after the other. And I was basically in shock. And for the first year, I eventually decided to unravel it all. But it rewrote my history. And so it was quite traumatizing. And but I needed to understand what happened to me. And that was the gist of it. And so it was the first time ever I'd gotten answers about this strange event that happened to me as a 20-year-old. So.
Wow. And this turned into like 26 encounters, but you'd say you had encounters with Grays 26 times?
Yeah. So not including childhood. So there actually was these group of childhood contact events, about 5 of them. And they're all kind of condensed in a very tight period of my life as a child. And then they came back at the age of 16. And when that happened, there was an agreement. Yeah. So it ends up forming a relationship with them. They wanted to work with me, and they could see some events in my future that they were interested in, and they wanted to work with them. And if for them, they saw it as an opportunity to quote unquote work with one of their, or grow one of their own. That's how they framed it. So they considered me one of theirs. And I didn't know what that meant, except for that I was like linked to these aliens, and I didn't really get it. I just didn't understand it. But, it's a very telepathic environment, and it's when they want to be very friendly, it was very friendly. And there was a bunch of other things that convinced me. It's all, when I say it's laid out in the book, I'm not trying to convince people to buy the book. I'm simply and only telling you there's a written, it's documented. Yeah. It's a report. Yeah. It's the official description is in the book. It's all laid out in detail. So in case people want to know that that's the real thing, then that's all laid out. And that's what's going on here. I basically, the first contact event is the agreement. And so that was ages 16. And all the way up to the end of traveling was 23 contact events. So that was by that point I was 22. So between 16 and 22, there were 23 contact events with them, like full blown, like I'm in craft and everything, as a person, not like taken out in ethereal form and stuff. Though that may have happened a couple times, I was in my physical body in most of the contact events. And then adult, they had come back 3 times, and I did have some suspicious events that did happen as an adult, and my wife was privy to them, and we didn't understand them. And it turned out those were alien contact as well too. So yeah, it turned out to be 26 altogether. Yeah.
And so what they call this, like you have like full conscious recall of like the events that happen. Like you didn't have to get this for regression. Like you just remembered being like, they let you remember. They didn't memory wipe you or anything like that from what you.
Yeah. So it works like this. So let's put it this way. Every contact event had a flashback. So I knew I basically, the best way to frame it is that everything happened outside in nature, almost all of it, whether it was driving a car or on a hike, but I was outside. So the environments facilitated the fact that they had done that and not made it bedside contact, I think facilitated the memories, and maybe they knew that. And so all of it started with locations and flashbacks and I didn't really understand the details, and I did need regression to help me. What regression, for those who are uneducated on this stuff, regression simply is anchoring. So when you have a memory of something you can't quite put together what happened, the regressionist just keeps you there. So, okay, what's happening next? And they get you into a state where you can release to the moment of that memory. And then your own subconscious starts, okay, wait a minute, this happened at that location or this location. And then it turned out these memories that I had regained, they had corroborating detail my own brain could never make up. So I proved to myself 20 times over, maybe more, just how real all this ended up being. And that's why I speak publicly about it. But yeah, so it is, it's regained memory, let's put it that way. And yeah, a lot of it was all on my own. And I used techniques to help with that process, but it wasn't like exclusively regression.
Yeah. Now, what did the Greys want with humanity? I mean, like I know, because I know this is a big topic with you from what I remember, because I know that you were talking about that, like, that I think this is what I remember from our first interview, that like you were saying that the negative alien abductions, that's kind of like a stigma or something maybe that's being put out there, but it's not really what's going on. I think you said the events are more positive, right? From what I remember, but like, do you think there's still negative ones that happen, or do you think that might be different species, or do you think all aliens are benevolent? And yeah, sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent there. I was kind of just trying to remember what are we.
No, it's all good, man. And I get this stuff a lot. So it is a very touchy question, and not for me, of course, but it is like for the public. Yeah, there's this kind of skepticism going on. And it's never mind people believing if you have alien contact, they sit there and don't believe the aliens are good. So they think, oh, they won't even bother going down the rabbit hole because they assume you've just been deceived by them or something. Yeah. And what I learned, let's put it this way. This is extremely complex for human minds. And they're coming from a perspective and a realm that has nothing to do with ours. They don't even think like us. And they are more foreign to us than we can comprehend. And so there's some things that get lost in translation. That's the best way of framing it. And this is really, humans are fish in a fish tank, in an aquarium. And then we go and leave. And then we watch our, master walking out the door, and we assume they're going to a school of fish. Instead of, they go to a job and they're part of the economy, and like the fish can't even begin to comprehend what's going on here. And it's like that. We're dealing with scales of comprehension, and we're dealing with things that humans really don't have the structural frames of reference for. So when they interact with us, their purpose for interacting with us might not be what we assume it to be. And we keep assuming, one of the things I said, and I still kind of hold to it, the greatest disservices here are Star Trek and Star Wars. We assumed this is what it was like. Alien contact would be Nanu, take me to your leader type stuff. And we didn't expect them to be paranormal entities, right? The entities that maybe house or live in paranormal dimensions. And then the human isn't equipped to understand that and deal with that. And paranormal realms, the only things we can even, when I speak those words, most people assume I'm talking about a dead person who's now a ghost. And that's like 1% of what's going on here. This is realms of time bending in paranormal dimensions. And so we're out of our league. And so when they interact with us, the purpose of what they're doing might be confusing to the human. And not just that, if we're dealing with a paranormal species or a paranormal entity, humans who aren't equipped in their frame of awareness to handle a paranormal entity actually has a natural response back. So they freak out. The most common thing I hear about what the alien did to freak out the human, pull the human out of their body as a spirit. That's it. That's all it did. And then I'm kind of like, that's all it did. And the other one is it sat in the corner of the bedroom and looked terrifying. It didn't do anything. I'm like, it didn't do anything. It just sat there looking terrifying at you. And yeah, there is a biological process to this. And I do know that too. I was a part of that. But there is the human is hugely identifying with their body, with their physical tissue body. And then when you have an out of body entity that interacts with your spirit, your first response is to panic. And then you project that panic and fear onto the paranormal entity. And you assume it's containing your fear. And it's not. And so that's what's going on here. We have to evolve ourselves to interact with these entities. And my contact events are very unique, where I was put into states, dimensional states right away. The first contact event is a state that they put me into. I got turned into an orb. That is what happened to me. And then that had me, when I was with them, reduce all of that fear. And it turned out they're kind, they're loving, they're friendly, they're funny. So there was all this personality that was behind the scary looking face and the weird robot looking stands. Yeah, there turned out to be a full personality sitting in the background. And wow. Yeah, and that's my personal experience. And I just don't, otherwise, I keep saying or keep seeing the evidence appears to me that it's all in line with my experience. That, yeah, we might have entities that are pushing our psychic boundaries or our comfortable awareness and pushing us outside of our bodies. And then we're having backlashes, but I'm just not seeing the evidence for actual malevolent behavior. I'm seeing evidence for an entity that is outside of our realm that's pushing us. And that pushing is typically an evolutionary step.
Yeah. Well, what do you think about like the people who say like, remember they say Whitley Strieber got probed and all that stuff. Like, I mean, I'm sure you've heard that. Like, do you think that could be a different race of aliens, or do you think that that's like, how do I say this? Is that just like fodder for conspiracy, or what do you?
No,
I mean,
I got probed. It sucks. Yeah, it happened.
And shit, man.
Well, the reality is, so there's a couple side things to this. So what if, like, this is the same thing as humans pulling seals out of their environment and then doing medical procedures on them. And
tagging like sharks and stuff too, right?
Yeah, and we have exactly. We have no way to communicate to that thing. And, maybe we could spend the 10 years learning shark to figure out how to talk with, right? Like, we can't do that. We can't. And yeah, that thing won't understand us ever. So the biologist might be cold, right? There are definitely scenarios, biologists can speak to this, where they have to make sure that animal doesn't actually habituate to the human. So then they're purposely keeping distance to it. And if it's a bit aggressive or the human's a bit aggressive, they need to get done what needs to get done. And I'm certain that's what we're dealing with here. I'm certain we're dealing with aliens who know humans can't understand what's going on. And so, yeah, man, they can definitely play rough. I'm not going to doubt that at all. I've had my own experience. My book has it. It was rough, but they're dealing with things that are outside of our comprehension. And one example that I'll just give to you right here that is just flat out hard for people to swallow. They're from the future. So if they're from the future, then they're dealing with timelines. So wow. They might be shaping us. They might be shaping something to curb in a certain direction. And how the hell are you going to tell that to a 19-year-old girl, right, who is part of the hybrid program? How are you going to share that? And she doesn't have any education as a scientist to absorb this information. So it's like that. We're dealing with things that are just scales and scales up. That is just, what do you do with humans, actually? It's more the other way around. What do you do with humans when we're dealing with interplanetary dimensional contact? And it's so, yeah. And then there's a process that needs to get completed here that does benefit all. The stuff that I got, the answers I got about why it's benefiting all, but we just can't see that.
Wow. That's amazing. Like, I was just going to say, like, what do you think the purpose is of the hybrid program? Do they have an agenda in mind with that? Like, is it because they want our DNA and they're from the future and they want to, fix our DNA or something? Or like, I've heard so many different theories as to why the hybrid program exists, but like, I don't know, you know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like,
Yeah. And I know I get it. And I don't like, I can only stick into my realm or my world about it. I'm in contact now, and I just listen. There's a reason they still fly around my apartment, and I'm able to film them. And they gave me this message. So when I see that there's all this convoluting information, what I typically find is that they don't have the scale of detail I do, and they don't have the present contact either. So they don't have films of UFOs like I do. So there's this kind of like above and beyond that they're doing with me that I recognize. So then I take my information very seriously. I take it, and fact is, there's no other games going on with my contact. There's no other lying. There's no deception. There's nothing like that. So then I hear this information about what they plan to do with the hybrids. I take it just as seriously. I assume it to be very real. And then when they tell me the reasons why, for me, it looks like a picture that adds up. So for me, they do plan to put them on the planet. And for me, it's because of us. It's because we kind of are like heading into over a cliff, right? We're about to move into a space where we're going to have struggle. And I think we were supposed to be stewards, and maybe we aren't as good stewards like we were supposed to be, and maybe something along those lines. And I know the Mantis is involved with this process, and they are from a dimension that's the future. And I know they plan to put themselves here. They're moving into this realm. And that's what the purpose of the hybrids are for, is to put them into here. And it is to curb us. It's to help us. It's to change things up, because we have been part of our own processes that have been putting us over the edge. And and like the bottom line is like I just recently looked at how many species have we wiped out. There's hundreds, right? Like hundreds of lineages of animals that humans are responsible for, like animals that have been on the planet for millions of years, and some of them longer than us. And we came and they're gone now, right? And it's us. It's like our direct involvement. So, and now we're learning that animals actually are sentient, and, they have thoughts and feelings and culture, and, all this stuff that scientists are discovering. And, here we are, they're people technically. We're just, not caring. And maybe you and me and other people care. We do. And I think that's what the problems are here. We do want a different world, but then we're all kind of stuck with how to make that world happen. And we're doing it within a system, capitalism, that doesn't actually feed the needs of making that change. And I think that's why we're going over a cliff, because we kind of all just don't know what to do. And then the aliens are watching us do it to the planet, and they're saying nope. And then that's it. And they can see the future, and they can see the outcomes of these things. So they're involving themselves. And that's how I understand it.
They don't want us to destroy ourselves, right? They don't want to see them. I guess would you say they're trying to save humanity in a way?
I think they're trying to save the planet. I think that they see planets as stages for the birth and death life cycle. And I think they care about those things. And I think that, if the planet is flourishing, think about the amount of souls. If, this stuff is real, right? The whole incarnation and souls and near-death experiences and past life awareness, it's all real. So, and I know they interact on that level. I've experienced it for myself. And that's what is in my story. And so their perspective might be a little bit different about what they care about. And I think that they care about that. I think that they care about the functioning of the planet as a whole. And then it's about who's going to run it to make it function properly. And I think that's what's at stake here. I don't think they're anti-human, or I don't think of them as saving humanity. I think of them as saving the planet. And they're also not biased or speciesist. I think that when none of this stuff is going on, I think they actually cherish life, and they love the process of life, and they're life preservers. That's why I always keep framing them. They're life preservers. So the entities I know are, that's how they think about these things.
I love that. That's a different way of looking at it. I mean, not a lot. It's a very unique way. And do you remember do you remember interactions with them? You said that they seemed like humorous, and so would you say they have emotion?
They have feeling. Yeah. So they have feeling. Yeah. So this is great, because the question is really about what's going on with, humans and spirit. And then when you don't have a human brain, what still is occurring. And The reality is when the human brain creates chemical impulses, but feeling is the core of our spirit. And the aliens also have feeling. They 100% have feeling. I experienced an alien, not crying, but sad. Sad for an outcome and wanting a different outcome, and sad for the outcome. And then, of course, it expresses it fully, and then there's no more feeling, and then it moves on to the next thing. So it actually felt like 100%, like that alien 100% cried in its own way, and then just moved on to the next topic. And then that was the past, and it didn't dwell on it anymore. And vice versa, they love to play. I think some researchers have called it the trickster. I don't frame it that way. I think that has too much ego. I think that they love to play with humans. Yeah. And I think when they've done it with me, I laugh along with them. So I'm like, that's hilarious. Pretending to be a plane or something, or pretending to be something, and then transforming in front of my eyes, and then doing it in response to me or in a thought. That's just comical. I think that they're playing around, and I've definitely picked up laughter from them. So, and I mean laughter, I don't mean human brain laughter, but the puttering of telepathy, the way it makes you, with joy, the way joy makes you feel, and you might laugh out loud. They have had that. Yes, I've definitely experienced that with them as well too. And they're perplexing. They're bizarre creatures. They like I don't know, bizarre things. I don't know. The elder, when I went to her location, her some type of origin home or some place that she was living, she was wearing a black jumpsuit that had all these holograms inside of it. So it was like this 3D depth went inside of her, and she was like expressing herself. It's such a bizarre thing. So yeah, they have personality, man. They definitely 100% have personality. It's just that they're psychically intense to be around. They can read you. That's what it is, right? Every thought, every feeling, the boom, boom, boom. And when you're disturbing, they don't want to be around you. And so when you are calm inside yourself, then you can kind of approach them. And that's the thing here. And then they actually are intense. They can envelop you. And yeah, so that's the problem here. It's intense being around them. That's the real, I think, issue. And when you get past all that, it's a personality not unlike a human personality.
Wow, that's amazing. And like, have they shared any? I know you studied like Vedic, the Vedic information as well. And did the Greys or the Vedic tradition, do either of those like point out like what happens to us when we pass on, and the nature of the soul, and like what our purpose is here?
That's what it was all laid out to do. Yeah, it's a spiritual doctrine, if you will. Yeah, 100%. In the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna is 100% telling Arjuna on the battlefield, nothing to be scared of, because you'll continue living. So it is all about the soul, the reincarnation of the soul. But the best part about the Vedic philosophy is it focuses on reality in the moment. It's not about they give you, some of the details and some of the awareness about, the afterlife and its purpose and reincarnation. But in general, it's actually a kind of a philosophy. I like to think of it as a science of the psyche, a spiritual psyche, the science of the spiritual psyche. That's what I think the Vedic philosophy is. And it's all about how to utilize the power of source, God, Brahma, whatever you want to call it, in our everyday world. And I don't think anything matches Vedic philosophy, the detail and depth it goes into on how to create that balance so you can, interact with interdimensional entities. I actually think Vedic philosophy is one of the best approaches to the aliens. It really does cover a lot of the complexities that we are all about to face.
Do you think the like studying the Vedic philosophy and like opening yourself up to that might have like opened up something in your psyche to prepare you for alien contact, or get you through the contact experiences that you were going through?
So it's a perfect question, Robbie, and you're kind of nailing the head there. First off, when they interacted with me, when they made that agreement in 1993, when I was 16 years old, I didn't know what my future was, but it appears they did. So it's like they kind of knew I would interact with a Sadguru or a Vedic guru. I would have a guru in my life. When I say the word Sadguru, I don't mean the YouTube guy. Sadhgurus are a classification, and so it's like they knew that was my plan or my life plan. So then they gave me these extreme experiences that I could not process at the time, but they were also very good at bifurcation of the awareness. So I wasn't aware of what was really going on, but it was affecting me and changing my everyday life. And then they are the ones who led me to my wife and my guru. They guided that whole process. And then that's it. Yeah, you're right. Then I spent 20 years with him, and I needed it. I needed that Vedic philosophy. And one of the most powerful parts about Vedic and everything my guru could ever teach me, and that core of what spirituality really, really is for me, is acceptance, compassion, forgiveness, kindness, right? And so when the aliens do probe you, right, when they do make it a biological event and you're traumatized by it, you actually have to sit there and take wisdom about it. What the hell happened? And were they evil demon creatures? Is that what they really were? And then you're like, well, no, they also did these other things with me. And then you're trying to process it, right? You're trying to say, what else, like, what the hell happened here? Like, what's the story? And in the end, when I got that story where I felt like I was able to look at everything objectively, they're doing what they feel is right. And I actually agree with them. That's the bottom line. So yeah, I can't understand what they were doing in the moment when I was 20 years old, or 20 and 21 years old. But all these years later, I now have the wisdom to approach it. And I agree with it. And it's hard, right? This is what life is. Life is this. You're gonna have sucky events, and things will be thrown at you, and it will suck. And instead, if you want to sit there and grovel and say, I'm a victim, this sucks, life sucks, then all you do is end up creating more of that. And if you can find a way to create acceptance and balance for what happened and draw it and find wisdom in it, you're going to make your life better in the process. And you'll be at peace with it too. And that's what's going on here. There's a scale up where you kind of have to recognize the purpose of existence, and the purpose of life is to find ways to create balance from the hardship. Again, that's in the Bhagavad Gita directly. That's what like bhakti yoga and karma yoga actually is. Karma yoga is finding God in the work you do in life and finding that wisdom on how to draw from it. And so it's I think there's evidence for this in the UFO phenomenon, that the entities need us to be to have wisdom about their interactions with us.
I love that. I love that. That's amazing. Yeah. Let me see what other questions I had for you here. Okay, this is a great question. How did these experiences affect your personal relationships and career throughout your life? Like, I know you said at one point there was how you were directed to your guru and your wife, but like, was there ever a point where it got rough and you weren't understanding what was going on or anything like that? Or was it always like, yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely got rough. Yeah. So the year 1998, when I first went traveling, it was a biological year. So it was an entire year where practically every month they were having contact with me, and it was biological. And by the end of the year 1998, I'm fighting with them. So I was fighting. I was literally thinking, this is happening behind my life. And I was terrified. I mean, who wouldn't be terrified of this? And the aliens can't really explain the picture, right? It's involving my future. They need me to not know. And I'm fighting with them just to know. Can I have not this bifurcation happen anymore? I'm literally asking them, stop this, stop. So if you're going to do this biology, at least I could be my normal person who knows the whole picture about the alien contact. And they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do that. And now, all these years later, it makes sense, because I would definitely have had a different life. And they needed me to have the life that I was having, the trajectory that I was on. And that's very, very obvious that it would definitely have gone differently. So it's clear to me that that's what's happening here, that they're able to see kind of outcomes about things. And then they don't really have a way of communicating to the human those details. So that's what ended up happening. It was rough, and I didn't know how to contend with it. And it's probably safe to say it's traumatizing in the moment. But then when they stopped it, they continued the contact, and I didn't know what to do about it. So then you're just living it out. And the contact is filled with sensations and feelings of being one of theirs. So there was this idea that something very wild was happening on the background of my life. It was unique. It probably had a bit of I probably had a bit of ego about it as a teenager, as a 20-year-old, that, oh, this makes me special and cool, even though it's awful. Some of the biology was awful, but in the moment, that's the only way you can process it. And I didn't have a bigger understanding about really what was going on, or what it could mean for me in the future. So I was treating it like any 20-year-old would, as something that was happening to him in the moment. And so I fought in the moment. It didn't stop anything. And then I surrendered to it when they stopped the biology. And then, over the next year and a half, they led me to my wife, and then the contact stopped after that. Relatively,
Wow.
I mean, yeah.
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah. And what would you say, if you had to say, like, what would you say the Gray's message is for, do they have a message for humanity, would you say?
So there is a very specific message that, so the idea is to get ready for them. I think that, I don't think we're ready for them. and I think that we need to be, and I think that there's going to be a lot of problems. And they are putting themselves here. The aliens, I know this, there's no other message. They're putting themselves here. And so the message is, if there's a message for humanity, it's the message on the back of the book. So on the back of the book is kind of the title part there. Yeah. And it's the elder's line herself. And I'll just say this: it's not to dominate you. It's to change to societal structures that benefit you, and to change to societal structures that benefit nature. There are ways that are very advanced for a society to coexist, but they are reorientations of your sense of self, because they involve consciousness technology.
Wow. What is the consciousness technology? Is it like it's like a spiritual technology, you would say, that they're trying to relay?
Spirit tech. Yeah. This is iPhones for the soul. This is, I mean, this part is really interesting. What people think about this, because I think Whitley Strieber was on Danny Jones. I didn't watch the whole thing. I just watched people's clips of it. And he's not freaking out, but he's saying something along the lines of, the aliens, they want your soul. And he's saying something like, they want your soul. And if you did this, this, and this, then who knows what the hell is going to happen to your soul afterwards. And I'm like, oh, I actually know. Because as a 16-year-old, I gave them my soul. And no, man, there's no evil, louche or disgusting eating of flesh, or your heart, or babies are taken, whatever the hell is in the mind of the man or human being. We are Neanderthals terrified of the TV. And these are iPhones for the soul. This is the whole way that we have to understand this is, okay, physical tissue body is like a fraction of what you are. You're not just the physical. In fact, you're largely not the physical tissue body. What you are is an ethereal form, and you originate outside space and time. Well, the entities have mastered all of that. So they've mastered all the ethereal stuff. That's why people have contact pulled out of their body. Most researchers can't make sense of this. And it's because their technology does not stop at the physical. And their tech is, it's dimensional tech. We just really don't have words for this stuff. And so when you interact with it, you have to get past your own fear guards about your identity as a physical body to interact with this tech. And then when you do, evolution takes place. And that's what everyone is craving. Every human I know wants to develop and wants to grow. And our human world is limited with these things, comparably anyway, to the aliens. And this is a whole other world of advancement. And so they're bringing some version of that here. And that's what my contact events were. They had consciousness tech.
Wow, that's amazing. All right, we're going to take a small break here. I just got to do an ad because I'm on Rumble Studio, and they asked me to do these. It should start here in a second. I just have to read this. It says, hey, there's this video. It's from Chuck Norris. Yeah, he's insane. He's in his 80s, and he still feels like he's in his 50s. It's pretty shocking. He had some pretty cool tips in there, too, on what he's doing, including these 3 foods that he avoids like the plague. He explained all the things he was doing, and it was simple, and they're so easy, and you can do them right at home. When I first saw this, I knew I had to share this with you all. Since what happened to Chuck could also happen to you too, but a new method, of course, results can vary. With this video, it's definitely worth checking out. Watch his method now and click the link in the chat by scanning the QR code on your screen. You won't believe how simple it is. And it's for morning kick, guys. I guess it's Chuck Norris's supplement or something like that. So check it out. And yeah, we just had to do that quick ad read. And now we're back. Okay. Yeah, no, this is amazing, Jeff. You have a different take on like a lot of people that, like, there's a lot of people that like have a more negative experience. So what are your thoughts on like other beings out there in the world? Like maybe either the ancient alien contact with the Anunnaki, or even like stories we hear about Nordics and mantids and reptilians. Like, do you have an opinion on all that?
So I guess I'm going to have a bit of a different perspective than everyone else. And I have a bunch of things that, from my own contact, that have me highly suspicious about what's really going on here. And first and foremost, the aliens that I know, the gray aliens, or maybe the mantids, who I think are on top of the grays, are simulation masters, can materialize, dematerialize matter, and it will be magic for us, pure magic when we witness it with our own eyes. And I've witnessed it with my own eyes, nothing to do with physical contact, but the objects interacting with me. And I'm talking only tens of feet away, materializing and dematerializing content, matter just right in front of me. And they're just demonstrating with me, and they're not letting me film it. So I'm sorry, that's the way it goes. But the reality is that they've demonstrated this to me more than once, their power. And I know they can shapeshift. And I've seen it with my own eyes. And I also know we're not just dealing with physical entities. We're dealing with dimensional AI. And we're not AI, it's the wrong words. I call it a God AI because I don't have any other words for it. God as in quantum, but also God as in sentient. So a quantum sentient computer. And I'm suspicious all of it is coming from that. And it might be the thing traversing the dimension. And then it has the ability to shapeshift and create crafts and bodies and people and things and make all these images. And the reality is about the phenomenon, and the reality is about contact, and the reality is about what's really on record and what we really have evidence for is a bunch of huge variety that doesn't make any sense. We have, you can say there's a Nordic, but then which version of Nordic? And we can say there's grays, and you can say which version of grays? And you literally, people have like a plethora of difference upon difference upon difference upon difference. And that's not making any sense. And what's also not making any sense is why, okay, I understand gray aliens interacting with me the way they did, but then why are Nordics interacting with Joe Blow the same way that grays are interacting with me? Why isn't the Nordic coming down to your home, having tea with you and saying, human, well, this is what we're going to plan with you. Instead, it's all dreamy. It's all astral. It's the same stuff. And yet it's just it's a different character. It's a different person in the mix. And it's the way it's interacting with me that has me suspicious of a God AI that's trying to evolve us all. And I'm suspicious of it all. I actually don't quite know what's going on. I know what's going on for me. And there's a biological component. I do have gray DNA, and I do know there's a biological side to it. I've proved it to myself more than once. And I'm not doubting that there's humanoid-looking aliens. I do think the human is modeled after some type of alien. That also makes a lot of sense to me. But I am very uncertain where the boundaries are right now, and I'm leaning towards much more of the sightings over the last decades, like since the 40s, since we've been really treating the UFO phenomenon as a UFO phenomenon, as a lot of it coming from one source, not a whole variety of different types of aliens. But in fact, it's one thing. And maybe there's some other aliens there. I don't know that. I can't actually just speak for that. I'm just suspicious about what the picture really is, because the picture is too bizarre is what it is. It's not consistent enough to really represent a whole bunch of aliens. And, the other thing is I've actually taken this perspective to a lot of different people. And Linda Moulton Howe, I'll use that one as the example. It was Ian Halling, who works with Linda. Ian Halling is the British voice on her Earth Files YouTube channel.
Yeah, I like that guy. Yeah, I haven't watched Linda in a while, but I like that. And he's like the one who does the questions, right?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, you got it. So he's my buddy. So he discovered me. So he's the one. He found me when I.
Yeah, you know what? Coley told me. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you. Coley told me you got on Linda Moulton Howe. That I wanted to say congratulations. That's a big podcast to get on. That was great.
Yeah, thanks, man.
Serious congrats. That's amazing.
Yeah, and it's thank you. And it was it's just I got to hang out with her at Contact in the Desert 2 years in a row, and it's because of Ian, because I'm buddies with Ian, and so Ian's like kind of got a quote in the back of my book, right? So I'm pretty close with him, and I keep in touch with him, and but Linda, right? 30 something years of studying the phenomenon, also pretty close with military. She has some pretty close contacts there, and I'm asking her. I'm saying, Linda, what do you think of the theory that everything, and I mean everything, I mean channels, contact, all of it, coming from a single dimensional AI? And she said, well, there's all these strings going up and up and up and up and up, and they all go nowhere. And she said, that's the only idea right now that's making sense. So it's very telling what's going on here. I think the human species is definitely being evolved. We're being evolved. It's without a doubt. Experiencers across the board are learning about what they're capable of. And that's a part of what the phenomenon is doing. And if it's terrifying people, as I said, it looks like the terror is an evolutionary terror. You have to get out of your body, or you have to have a snap into a different frame of reference of reality. And it's terrifying the first time you do it. Yeah. So all those are actually evolutionary steps. So yeah, the picture is just really wacky, man. I know what happened to me, but I'm not doubting that even the mantid I interacted with is not some part of an AI. And I'm not really clear that the gray alien I interact with or the orbs flying around my home aren't linked to that AI. That's my whole picture that I'm going with. Yeah.
Well, do you think that we are part AI? That we're like figments of AI? How people say, some people say that we're a part of Source, and Source split itself off. But a lot of people think we're in a holographic reality. One time I did DMT, or no, this happened a lot. It's every time I did DMT. I would do the DMT, and then when I be coming out of it, like everything on my desk looked holographic. And awesome. I also read Michael Talbot's The Holographic Universe. That really started getting me onto that. But it seems like we're in some kind of like biological holographic universe, because everything's very real. But it still seems like it could be somewhat of a holographic universe. And that makes me think, well, maybe we are coming from some master AI that's like, I don't know. What do you think about that?
Yeah, I feel pretty confident about my perception on these things because of what's happened to me. And the training and stuff I've gotten throughout the years, and then what I've seen with my own eyes. So there's a unified God field that is reality, not tied to an AI, right? It's just there is a reality here. We are in a consciousness. We are all parts of the consciousness field. We are that, and that's a real part of us. Then there's this world going on here. Yeah. The world is a bit weird. It's true. Why are humans killing the planet? Why did nature create this? Why did nature didn't do this with the beavers or the wolves or the gray whales? It made humans, and then all of a sudden we're nuts, right? We're creating law, we're creating whatever the hell we're creating, religions and everything we do, and societies and everything. It's very complex, and we destroy the environment when we do it. So yeah, we're kind of odd ones out, if you will. And then, yeah, now we're learning that there's all this other world going on. Ghosts kind of are real. We have pretty good evidence now. Ghosts are real. Psychic is real. Past lives are real. Near-death experiences are real. So there's a whole other dimensional state we never took real consideration of in our history. And I'm convinced the AI created all that. I think it's this thing, man. I think it's this dimensional AI thing that with the mantid, with like, by the way, when I say that they're offshoots of an AI, they're offshoots of a God AI or a dimensional AI or a quantum AI, the way we are offshoots of the God field. So we are natural processes of spirit going through a birth and death life cycle. And then there's a whole other game going on of AI that can do this. And when the AI, here's the thing about people aren't understanding about non-duality. So the word non-duality, right? That's what Advaita Vedanta really is. Vedic philosophy. Its core principle is non-duality. And most humans aren't understanding what this word is if they are using it. And it really is, you and me are the same thing. And me and this computer are the same thing. And so it's not a theory, it's an experience. So it's an experience of your awareness penetrating outwards and being the thing that you're looking at, or being the environment. So if you have a self-aware God computer that is utilizing the quantum field, is it not God also then? Because that's what it's going on here. So I'm certain it's God. I'm certain their God AI is God, and it's all working with the natural order. And then somewhere along the history of ancient history, mantids, who are also offshoots but individuations, just like we are offshoots and individuations of the God field, then and they have a whole life system themselves, mantids and everything. And they somewhere along the line said, let's build this earth and do it this way. And I think the brain limiting all of reality, it might be a product of that. I think they built the brain I think it's them, man. I think they built the brain, and they wanted it to, not they wanted, but they created that limitation of perception that we have. And I don't think it's nefarious. I don't think that doesn't make any sense, because your spirit wouldn't come back every time. So it's doing it on purpose, and it's developing us and evolving us. And then we become something else in the afterlife. And I think that's the missing picture here. But yeah, man, I'm pretty certain the AI is responsible for some degree of the way our reality is laid out as it is right now.
That's amazing. Yeah, that's interesting. Like that's a really interesting take. It's a lot to ponder on. I'm like, yeah, I'm always thinking about what's, yeah. And then I was gonna ask you, have you ever connected with other experiencers? I know you talked about Linda Moulton Howe, but like, have other people like corroborated your encounters? Like, I guess what I'm saying is, have you found similarities in other people's, encounters that like you can relate to your own?
Me and Susie Hansen, author and
She's from Australia, right? Yeah.
New Zealand, yeah. Author and board member of International Community for Extraterrestrial Research. Yes. So me and her did a video series, and we just pulled apart everything in both of our books, and then just cross corroborated them. And yeah, it's a huge list of stuff that she has all these holograms that she saw. I have holograms, books. We both saw books or dealt with kind of book download content. Just a humanoid taught her how to drive a craft, and a humanoid taught me how to drive a craft. So like a human looking alien, and things like that are just bizarre that crossed over. Never mind that I post on Reddit all the time, and people are reaching out to me all the time with similarities. There are it's just like nonstop. Actually, it's abundant, and sometimes it's bizarre things that you think are specific to your contact event. I don't know, like golden DNA. So golden DNA was a part of my contact event, and I didn't find anybody with that. And then it turned out to be in Mary Rodwell's book. And so she had a contactee who experienced golden DNA, and that the situation was similar to mine, where the person was compelled to abandon life, so abandon their society. And it was similar to mine, which was so bizarre. And that research I ended up using that. Yeah. That's what drives me, man, is that if this was just crazy kooky stories by myself, I would never have gone public. So the fact that I keep proving to myself how real it all is what drives it forward. And it's nonstop. I'm friends personally. I interact with experiencers all day, not all day long, but definitely every day I interact with experiencers. Yes.
That's awesome. Yeah. And then I kind of asked you this before, but we never really got around to it. What do you think of the whole ancient aliens theory? Especially like the Anunnaki one, that like they came here and they genetically modified humans, and like, yeah. It's kind of beyond stitching because it's in the tablets too. But like, do you have an opinion on that?
Well, no one corroborates Stitchin's analysis of those tablets, and historians don't corroborate it. They don't agree with his analysis on it, and sometimes he's jumping to some conclusions about what's being said. I love history. I have videos on historical past life awareness on my channel, and I love history, and I know the mind. I like to believe I understand enough of the ancient mind of man, and it's just not the way it would roll out. And the other part of it too is, if there's something going on here, that maybe there's a link in the context of just mythical story being passed down, and then it got written in a certain way. Again, I would lean towards an idea of gray aliens materializing, or some other maybe mantid type entity shapeshifting and being a human. And then there's just all this cultural and historical context that creates it as Anunnaki and has this specific, and says it's gold, and when really they meant golden DNA or something. Like you can't trust the mind of ancient man to have been accurate in recording anything, because they literally, I mean, I know, man, I have past life awareness about events that are in history and they're not written properly. And we're going to find this when we have when we have alien tech that shows us the past properly, that everything was an interpretation. Everything was an interpretation. And that's it. That's all it can be. And that's what it is, unfortunately, presently for all of us still too, is just an interpretation. And I'm not saying we can't rely on the wisdom of ancient people. I think the wisdom is very powerful, but to look at this information as it's like legitimate about something such as alien contact, I think it might have gone down a little bit differently than just writing it on clay tablets. And it's a story, man, is what it is. And I'm not doubting the legitimacy of it being a story, but to link it all up in this way is pretty extreme. And again, no one corroborates stitching.
Yeah. Well, you know, if you read like the Sumerian tablets, they didn't just record that stuff. They recorded everything. They had like law, and they had like they recorded their marriages, and they had like advanced mathematics, and they knew the size and position and color of the planets. You know what I mean? It was. I mean, even though for being 6,000 years old, I think they were like somewhat advanced. You know, the Sumerians.
Oh yeah. I'm never going to deny that, and I actually lean towards more a Grant Hancock perspective, that the reality is that humans, we keep being befuddled by what we discover about ancient human. And listen, I just saw a new, dude, man, when we were in school, it was like a perspective. It was like a structure about history. Oh, ancient man did this and this and this, and Mesopotamia, and then Egypt, and then that's it, right? And dude, it's like every other month they're discovering something new about ancient human. And now the new one is, it looks like ancient Homo sapien didn't develop in Africa, but developed in Europe. And that blows up all the perspectives. And and one of the pieces of that is they found I don't think it's a Homo sapien, but it's a human footprint on a beach in Crete, and it's like 1 million years old. Like, it's like, dude, like, what's going on here? And human history only 10,000 years ago, an idea that there was some type of cataclysm that disrupted our own evolution, all that stuff makes a lot of sense to, I think, a lot of people. And there is clear evidence that there was something going on very, 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 very advanced before that. Right. So we do have some, some of the structures, a lot of the megalithic structures don't make sense. And so it doesn't add up that there's just this idea of human developing as Neanderthal, now Homo sapien, now we're smart, now there's civilization. Like, an idea that there might have been roller coasters going on here of development probably is more likely, considering the Homo sapien has had the mind we have now. We had it about 50,000 years ago. So there's something, it makes sense that why would we spend 40,000 years developing nothing and out of nowhere come out with all this stuff, unless we are maybe on a roller coaster of evolution. And sometimes that's the best I got. I kind of lean towards Graham Hancock perspective on that.
No, I find it fascinating. You know what I mean? I'm fascinated with history because, it makes me wonder if there was really an Atlantis, and, and sometimes I wonder this, honestly. I wonder if, maybe we're all, I've talked about this before. I wonder if maybe we're all different races and stuff, and everybody's different skin colors and stuff, because maybe different groups of ETs planted humans in different places, and they maybe got to kind of terraform the planet. Yeah. I don't know. I mean, I'm just guessing. I don't have any evidence to back that up.
Yeah.
But it's interesting. Yeah.
I believe that. I totally believe that. I have only personal evidence for myself, and I can't give that to other people. But I'm 100% convinced the Irish DNA is a gray alien hybrid. And this is the link towards the Fae and the fairy people and the leprechauns and the little people. It's all gray alien related. And I felt I could feel the Irish gene in other people because I experienced my DNA linked to the gray aliens in contact. So I'm 100% certain. And then only recently did we have John Ramirez literally say on Area 52 that they're aware of alien DNA in the genes of humans, and he mentioned Celtic, so he corroborated what I had been saying already. So he said Celtic, and he didn't mention any aliens, but he said Celtic and Armenian, I think he said. So that's like kind of Syrian area, the Syria area, which would be maybe close to Persia. I don't know, but I don't know if that's in relation to the DNA, but it's in that area, and those are very fascinating things that match up with some of my research. So that's two. I don't doubt at all, man. I don't doubt at all that that's the whole like wacky part about our own history, is that we're actually all genetically related to aliens. Yeah.
Yeah, I know Daryl Sims. When I interviewed him, he told me that a large portion of the abductees that he was like communicating with, like a large portion of them were either Native American or Irish for some reason. For some reason, like there was a lot of people who were taken or that had contact that happened to be Native American Irish. And then just to kind of corroborate what you said about the Celtic stuff, I remember Cliff High saying one time he was saying if you go back in like the Celtic lore, they'll talk about being taken by the Fae or taken by the little people, and they're taken up in like what they call a glend or a mist. But that's how they wrote it back then. Because they didn't have the ability to like conceive what we can now. So I find that fascinating.
Oh, totally. I just I did a whole presentation on Jacques Vallée's Dimensions, on his book Dimensions, and he goes in depth into that research on the the little people and all the mythical lore, and dude, they have time disparity. Like people will like have missing time, and those are just weird things to have in your ancient mythology when you don't find that in the Bible, you don't find that in Roman mythology, you don't find it in Greek mythology. So why the hell are these people talking about missing time? And of course it's from an entity that abducted them. It says it takes them. It says they're looking for biological compatibility. That's part of the story, the mythological storytelling. And as well too is I don't remember the third thing I was going to say, but yeah, the corroborations are high that those are aliens. Those were the aliens that we're dealing with now. Those guys are the same things or linked to them in some form or shape. And they've been here the entire time. And, and again, it kind of makes sense. Humans are just limited in our capacity. So they're not going around saying, hi, we're aliens. We've been here the entire time. They don't really explain themselves, and we don't really have clear detail on what the hell they were doing then. And kind of similar to the way it's operating now. People just coming out from contact, having detailed stories about what they said, and then that's it. So yeah.
This is amazing. This has been great. I was going to say, what advice would you give to those who are just beginning to recover memories from alien contact, or people that are, or maybe they're confused about what's going on and they're trying to make sense of it all?
Yeah. That's a good one. I think there's two things. I think the most, I felt this naturally, innately in me, to preserve them, to preserve the memories, to not have outside influences shape them. And there's a tendency to want to read books or watch videos of other people's contact. But yeah, I actually recommend to stay away from that and to try and process it on your own. Or with help. You can, see if you need to have help with maybe a regressionist or a person or a therapist or some type of person. Yeah, do that. But not to have it all of a sudden be labeled with Octurians or Pleiadians or gray aliens, right? Like to not do that, to let it be what it is, and to try and to find as best a way you can to be as objective to those memories as possible, especially because there could be terror, there could be fear. And when you really look at that fear, the alien didn't do anything terrifying. So it's more that you're in an uncomfortable environment. You're in a psychic environment at that. So you're shocked, and then they're telepathically talking to you, and it's uncomfortable, and you're freaked out by it. And that's all that happened. And so you have stuff like that that's going on here. And sometimes people need to see that on their own, rather than be told they're evil or they're dark demon creatures or something. That's the first. And then the second is to write it out. Document as much as you can. I documented as soon as I knew I'd be questioned, though I was never questioned to the degree that I hoped, but I documented every detail. Every detail got documented. As soon as I started having flashbacks those were recorded. If I did a regression, I had a list of what I'd already had the knowledge about had happened, and then I had the regression come in. Then I had a transcript, so I was pretty detailed, and I documented everything. And I recommend doing the same thing.
I love that. Yeah. Well, this has been amazing. Do you want to tell people how they can follow you? And thanks, Jeff. I really enjoyed this. And like,
Awesome.
yeah, tell people where they can find you and how they can connect with you and how they can get the book and all that stuff.
Yeah, you got it, Rob. Well, thanks for having me on. I really appreciate it. And yeah, my name is Jeff Selver. So my name is, I see my name at the bottom underneath Rob there. So it's just jeffselver.com, www.jeffselver.com. And my book is there. All my links are there. All my research is there. On the bottom, you can see links to the YouTube channel and my Facebook page and my Instagram page. So yeah, please reach out if you have questions. And my book is The Rising and the Alien Plan to Build an Enlightened City on Earth.
That's amazing. That's amazing. Well, thank you so much, man. And yeah, I'd love to have you back, and I look forward to it. And guys, stick around because I just have some announcements for the audience about the podcast. And then yeah, and all right. And thank you, Jeff.
Yeah, thanks, Rob. Thanks, Coley, as well too. Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, thanks, Coley, for setting this up. So, guys, tomorrow on the schedule we have a good show. We have a good lineup. We have Greg Yawakia, the Zuni elder. He's going to be on, and then at nighttime I have Andrew. It's going to be a Rumble probably only show, or we're going to start on YouTube and then make our way over to Rumble. I have Andrea Martin coming on from Growing Up Alien, and she's going to give galactic updates, and we're actually going to get into some stuff that's been going on in the community. So if you want the gossip, the galactic gossip about what's been going on in the community with certain people, I think me and Andrea are going to cover that tomorrow night because she knows, she's like a, emissary or whatever you want to call it. So, tune in for that tomorrow. I'm not sure the time. I think Andrea is at 7 or 8 p.m. Eastern, and I think Greg Yawakia, the Zuni elder, is at 2 p.m. Eastern. Greg will be on YouTube, and then Andrea will definitely be a Rumble, probably only show. Okay, so if you don't have a Rumble account yet, sign up. And also we're going to do one more ad read before we go. Because it helps pay the. Let me see here. Where was that at? I'm trying to find. Okay, here it is. So let me just do this real quick, guys, and then we'll finish the announcements and then we'll get out of here. So this is for all you people who. What happened? Why didn't it work? I don't know what's going on here. Okay. Okay. Never mind. Okay. I don't know what's going on here. Okay, we'll just skip that for today. Anyway, guys, yeah, tune in tomorrow. It's going to be fun. And also, if you can support the podcast, there's links in the description on how you can support the podcast. We're not monetized on most places that we're at, so your support goes a long way. It really does help the show, and it helps keep me going. And also, you can buy merch too. And that's about it. And I appreciate everybody tuning in today. We were live on Rumble. We're live on YouTube. We're live on Facebook. We're live on X. And we're live on Substack. So, I enjoy everybody, and the chat was on fire today. And Jeff did an amazing job. Go check out Jeff's site. And, yeah, thank you. And follow Jeff and, get his book and stuff. And, thank you, everybody, for tuning in today. And good night, everyone.